Okay. The Great Depression was a very severe event that caused many to suffer. On top of that, natural disasters such as the Dust Bowl and the Deep South tornado had hit at the same time. This image is a representation of how much the public had suffered due to both of them occurring at the same time. This college risk stimuli is of a migrant mother, one who had voluntarily migrated to California in order to escape the horrors she had witnessed from the Dust Bowl. My name is Mayla Golokoti, and today we'll be talking about migration patterns during the Great Depression due to natural disasters. My research question for today is, to what extent did natural disasters during the Great Depression negatively impact migration patterns in the United States? My argument for today is, during the Great Depression, many had been hit hard by financial loss, housing loss, and resource loss, and could not bring themselves to get back up again in an already poor economy. After being hit with natural disasters, many had migrated, which had negatively impacted the consistent migration patterns that were present before the Great Depression. We'll be talking about three claims within this topic. First, we'll be talking about economic instability, absence of shelter, and resource shortage, and how all three of these combined negatively impact migration patterns. First, we'll be talking about economic instability. This graph here depicts the levels of unemployment during the Great Depression. During the Depression, the highest level of unemployment was during the Great Depression. As you can see here, 25.6% of the population were unemployed during that time. That means 1/4 of the US population was unemployed and had no jobs and no financial income. Because of this, many had struggled to keep up with their scrapping by livelihoods and had voluntarily packed up their lives and tried to move to a better area. By doing so, many had hoped to find financial gain and more job opportunities to help themselves out. Many had to move on from the living a life filled with dread. Many had hoped to migrate and uproot their lives in order to find that happiness. They had wanted to provide their children with toys and a family dinner instead of just scrapping by with their lives. This hope for prosperity is what pushed the pattern of migration from not just a couple of people, but to a stampede of travelers, and that affected the entire economy of the United States because of the increase of people in urban areas. Because of the lack of money, lack of housing was also an issue. This is a woman named Virginia Durr. Virginia Durr had expressed that the situations during the Great Depression were very severe, especially with the two children that she had. She had stated that with these two children, and without a lack of system and housing, it was a very hard life to live. The article Average Age at Last Live Birth in Lucky Few and Late Baby Boom Birth Cohorts in the United States says that before the Great Depression hit, many women were encouraged to give birth to children and go to work. After the Great Depression hit, however, many families were left with several children and no money, which led to the lack of housing. Because of this, many had tried to migrate away from this and go to a more stable place with less housing inflation. Virginia Durr had said that the state the Depression had left people in was just insane, and how people had no money or any resources or no clothes, which leads us to our next topic, resource shortage. According to FDR, I talked with families who had lost their wheat crop, lost their corn crop, lost their livestock, lost the water in their well, lost their garden, and come through to the end of the summer with $1 of cash resources, facing a winter without feed or food, facing a planting season without seed to put in the ground. FDR had seen the people hit hard by the Great Depression. He had issued a statement in which he said that he had created a system in which it would provide better living stability and better food security for the people. This promise is what led to the influx of people from rural areas into urban areas. And this had resulted in rural areas into urban areas, along with the people from the southern plains moving into the northern areas because of the Dust Bowl and the Deep South tornado. Because of the lack of resources, plus the hope for a better life, many had flocked in from these areas to be part of the better system in the urban areas. The lack of resources had, the increase in population in these areas is what led to, which ultimately ended with the lack of resources once again for the people that migrated and for the people that were already living in the area. Now, when we talk about California, that was a very popular place for people to migrate to. However, if you all can recall from the image in the beginning, that was of a mother who had voluntarily migrated to California in order to escape the horrors. However, based on the picture, you can see that she is still suffering. This shows that that the conditions in California were not better, and they were still hit by the harsh conditions of the Dust Bowl. The effects of natural disasters, along with the Great Depression, is what led people to migrate. Despite people trying to migrate away from this and escape the horrors, you can see that their hopes were fragile because everyone had suffered no matter where you had lived in the United States. Hope had prevailed amongst the people, however, and many had hoped for financial gain, for economic stability, for working amenities, and a roof above their head. Migration had drastically impacted the population control, and people's will for self-preservation is the reason why. Thank you.
Two questions for you. First up, how'd your research question evolve as you moved through the process?
My research question first started off by talking about population growth and how that affected with migration, but I couldn't find many articles about that, so I thought about migration patterns instead of population control, and that I got a lot more articles with the migration.
Okay. And what additional questions emerged as you were working your way through the research?
Can you repeat the question?
What additional questions emerged as you worked your way through the research?
As I moved through the research, I kept on wondering what these people's personal stories were because of all the different situations that were occurring, which is why I included, Virginia Durr, because she had had many experiences, and that's just one person with a whole bunch of people migrating.